Hey guys, if you're listening to this, it's probably because you're looking for episode 14 of Tales of Yoranta, The Wailing Seas. This episode would have been called Catch 22. Unfortunately, it was lost to Twitch's auto deletion for VODs. We had some hardware issues after I came back from Sweden. Thankfully, I took a bunch of notes, which is kind of my job. But yeah, so I'm going to read you a little bit of a recap from episode 14, and that will fill in some of the gaps as you go onwards to episode 15. So here's a summary. We emerged victorious in the battle for Eight Rings. Most of the casualties were from the town guard. In the aftermath, we learned that Shackle was not a tiefling herself, but a heavily scarred human woman. She was wearing a broken amulet with the remains of some divine magic about it and carrying a bag with a strange piece of paper or card inside. Shortly after seeing to Shackle's remains and the end of the battle, it became apparent that Glimmer was missing. We searched for him, but we couldn't find him thanks to some truly appalling investigation and perception rolls. The guard we'd grown to call Toilet Guard was also missing. While Soren searched for Glimmer, the rest of the party went and took stock of the rest of the town. They received news of an imp loose in the Misty Grove from the illusionist, and also learned that the Ninth Ring had lost quite a few of its members in the fight. Afterwards, the party headed back to the Goblet of Change, which had changed its name to the Goblet of Rings. Not exactly ready for a party yet, we went upstairs and opened the bag that we pulled off of Shackle. What we found then was an artifact called the Card of Flames. It's intrinsically bound to the language of the Fallen, which is the magical tongue associated with fiends. It was also, to date, the most powerful object that we'd come across outside of the containment box that we'd gotten from Captain Sfaro Del Mioa. We learned that if we were going to put the card into the box and draw it out again, that a select fiend, an unknown fiend, would make us its mortal enemy. But what was even stranger about the card was that it changed. The face of it changed depending on what angle it was viewed from. And it depicted three figures. First was a stylized character wreathed in flames with three horns, a ram's horn, antlers, and a single horn on the forehead, I believe, garbed in extravagant armor. This figure was known to Vigil as the Three-Horned King and was Cavil's leader and champion. The second we knew as Lord Shackle. And then the third was Vigil himself. Yeah, that's a thing. On investigating the box we'd gotten from Sfaro Del Mio, we learned that there were 22 runes on the box itself, but we only recognized some of them. The languages that we did know were that of the dragons, the giants, entities known as the Wild or the Broken. Really not sure on that one. The Fae, the Shadow, the Fallen, the Dead, and then finally another rune that none of us knew, and it was simply incomprehensible. The card was referred to as the Lexicon of the Fallen, and after a moment as we sat there studying it, we realized that the card had changed and was showing us, instead of Lord Shackle, a thin human man with black hair, and none of us knew him. Later that evening, the gang headed out to the burning remains of the Swordfish, which was the other pub in town. There was the Goblet of Chains, now the Goblet of Rings, and the Swordfish. Turk and Enzo ended up wingmanning the hell out of the resident wizard and set him up with a not quite date with Elza, the Railgar mage. Soren rolled a natural 20 to dance, and the two of them went off to go have themselves a really nice time. Thanks, guys. Enzo, meanwhile, went and talked to a captain from Sunken Akun and learned how the ship that had brought the Electrum Guard to them had avoided the Leviathan. Vigil, meanwhile, was approached by a young boy with a letter written to him on leather, and it turns out it was from our old pal Captain Vin, who thanked Vigil for his mercy, but said he was done with humans and their squabbles and had decided to head home. Vin told Vigil that if he was ever near the land where the ice flowed like the ocean tides, end quote, to look him up in the Raven Bones tribe. So we all went back to the Goblins? Wow. Goblet of Rings. I'm halfway through this recording. I'm not doing it again. The Goblet of Rings, and Enzo got a mysterious visit from his patron, who told him that we want them all. Bring them to us and you will have your just reward, referring to the card that Enzo had pulled. His patron asked Enzo how much he wished to change the world, and Enzo asked if his patron meant himself or the world. I've screwed that up. It was cooler in person. Anyway, let me try that again. His patron asked Enzo how much he wished to change. Wow, And Enzo replied that Dang. Okay, anyway, you got the point. His patron replied both, and that they can make him more. Enzo meant if that meant now, and his patron said in time. Enzo agreed to this, and his patron tells him, "We like you. You find interesting things in places." During the night, we heard a distant argument on the roof, which turned out to be Nikki, who got chased down and carried home. Soren ended up praying before bed as per usual, reaching out to Glimmer unsuccessfully. And at some point, I had sent off a few sendings to Altus, Soren's mentor, Saranella, the daughter of Captain Svardelmioa, and Glimmer, and had told Altus about Griff and his transformation, and reaching out to Saranella to find out what she was, and finally Glimmer to see if he was alive at all. Altus said he didn't really know, but would research. Saranella said that she had been captured and was held in chains below the ocean by the Sahagwin. Can't pronounce it. Anyway, shark devils. And then finally Glimmer, who replied with, "Who is this? Nest brother? Nest sister? Why is your voice familiar?" Fire. "Soren, I'm sorry, I don't know how to find you." Soren replied with 8 rings, Cavoli material plane. "We've been together for 12 years. We'll exchange anything to bring you back. What is your true name, please?" Glimmer replied with, "They said I shouldn't do that. I'm at the Twilight Brooks. They say they'll be in touch." Ominous. So Glimmer's alive, so that's good. Soren debates using the conjuration ring, but realizes that he has no idea how he'd even start with this and would need weeks to figure it out, so he went and met up with the rest of the party. Enzo went and bought himself some things, and apparently a notebook for Vigil, and as the party was leaving and boarding the boat, a young boy gave Turk a wooden sword as a gift for helping out the town. It was very sweet. I wish it had been recorded. Elza made mention of a few more mages in Sunken Cocoon who could help with Glimmer's disappearance, namely Thaldo and Kryn, who was an expert in the magic of names. After that, the party boarded the boat and headed to Sunken Cocoon, which looks to be about a journey of 14 days, because 14 days on a boat is exactly what the party just needs right now. Yeah. So yeah, that is episode 14, the recap of that. It is a little bit messy, but it's freaking 2 in the morning and I'm not recording this again, so you can catch us the Unnamed View on twitch.tv/runesale every Sunday at 6 p.m. GMT, or you can watch the VODs here on YouTube. Thanks for listening, and see you later.